Rise up, the Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up, rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up.
And we're back to another episode of the D's on Fire podcast. It's another week of Duquesne basketball that hurt the soul a little bit. Although I did say none of these games' results mattered. I wanted to see growth from the young guys and finding a rotation. Seems like Dambrot's solidifying a rotation. I don't know if we agree with the choices on that rotation. Alec, where do you want to start?
Since you brought up rotation, we're recording a day after the St. Joe's game, which I went to. Just kind of the thought occurred to me. I texted you in the middle of it. I'm like, what happened to Savrasov?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't played in the last two games.
Yep. And Zach also messaged that he was dumbfounded that Savrasov never got in the game. So
especially with Day out, it's really, really a head scratcher. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of punishment or something. I don't really know. I thought he was just coming into his own on the team and really, being an important contributing part of the team. But
yeah, and the St. Joe's matchup really felt like one where Savrasov could have been used to help guard a big guy with outside game that stretched the floor, because that was definitely a struggle in the first half. But instead, Chabi got some minutes, and I mean he didn't look bad in his minutes. He had the very big highlight dunk.
Yeah,
in the second half that I don't think that capped off the run, but that was definitely a nice exclamation mark on the run that they were making to get back into the game.
Yeah. We both said it. We texted we didn't talk in depth about the game, but we did say that was just a good college basketball game, objectively.
Yeah, objectively.
Duquesne lost, but it was very entertaining.
Yep.
With
Princeton, unfortunately.
The second game in a row that we lost by a bucket in crunch time.
Yeah. I guess we'll go back in time here. So Richmond. I felt like we gave it away, and then the refs also took it. But if you're ranking the classic sports talk of whether we lost it or Richmond won it, we lost that game.
Yes. God, this game feels like it was so long ago. I'm reading my notes trying to remember what the heck happened. But basically, I know at the end, Trey Clark was just very poor situational basketball and situational decisions by Trey Clark, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I will say this. I'm very glad that we reported after the St. Joe's game because he was a true highlight in the St. Joe's game. So it's as Dambrot says, you take the negatives with the positives with Trey. He's just that good. But yeah, he had a few drives to the basket where he was out of control, caused some turnovers, poor shot selection. It all reared its ugly head in that Richmond game.
Yeah, I'm reading my notes towards late in the game. I wrote at 3:21. I don't remember this turnover, but maybe you do. Clark had a poor turnover, a poor pass, and it led probably to a transition bucket. But I wrote down exactly kind of the end of the game and why I thought it was, super poor decision making. So it was at the 53-second mark of the Richmond game. It's a tie game. We have a 30-second shot clock. We're bringing the ball up. And Trey Clark brings the ball up. Dixon sets a pick at the top of the arc. Defender goes under. And Clark, anytime he sees a defender go under, that's pretty much a green light for him, which shouldn't necessarily be the case. He's not.
In that situation specifically, that is not the case.
Yeah. He shoots a shot with 20 seconds left on the shot clock and 42 seconds on the game clock. You have to milk more time and get a better shot than that in that situation. And that led to, you know, obviously Richmond goes down to the other end and gets the winning bucket. So shooting that early in the shot clock is just, that can't happen,
Yeah.
especially a three where I know he has the green light from three, but he's just not the best shooter. I know you're the best player, but you're not necessarily the best shooter, the best guy taking it. And it that kind of proves so with fast forward to the St. Joe's game. Horansky hits the game tying shot.
Works the clock down as much
Yeah,
as
work the clock down. Like that was good situational basketball. We got unlucky, obviously, in the end. Not unlucky, but I mean, we lost in the end. But that was at least like the situation was correct. We played the situation correctly.
on
This was
the
just,
on the
yeah, that was
Ronsky
bad.
shot. They showed that replay several times, so I saw it often. The guy guarding him, I couldn't tell if he literally tripped over himself or if he was flopping. Did you have any indication as to what happened there? Because the guy guarding him covered him all the way up until he went up for the shot, and then he just like fell over sideways. And I wasn't sure if he was trying to get a push off called or something, but
So obviously I was there, only saw what I saw in person. I didn't see any of the replays. I'm not online on Twitter seeing
right,
replays or whatever. Um, Honestly, I was just focusing on the shot
that's
and the
fair.
ball like going up. But it was a good, so what I will say though, and what I noticed is Horonsky played very well in this game.
Yeah, he did.
Um, and I could tell, I couldn't really hear anything, but I was sitting um it's a very small gym, so I basically sat behind the bench, the Duquesne bench. Um, and it seemed like to me that Dambrot was really trying to get a mismatch, like have Horonsky set a pick with Rozier, get a switch, and then get Rozier's man, give it to Horonsky in the post. And I saw that didn't quite happen earlier in the game, and Dambrot was really on Horonsky, like, let's come on, we need to execute this. And then he went to it towards the end. I think he really liked Horonsky's like shot making and ability to shoot over that defender in that game, and I think that's why he kind of trusted him in that moment.
Yeah, and he showed that he's got some European Mamba blood in him with that uh late game shot
That's a
with the
good
little
shot.
one-legged fadeaway sort of shot. That was nice.
Yeah,
All right. We gotta go back to the Richmond game because I
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about the refs and that one mess of a call that they made
Okay,
in
yeah.
particular.
Jog my memory because I'm foggy for some reason
All
in this
right.
game more than normal.
So towards the end, we have
Is
the
it
ball.
Rozier? Rozier foul?
No, the Rozier foul was like the exclamation point at the end of all of this.
Okay, okay, okay. Go ahead,
But
go ahead.
also the Rozier foul. I mean, I don't know what the hell he's supposed to do if
Yeah, yeah.
he's standing there facing the guy and then
He didn't have his arms
his
on the guy, wasn't
no.
facing the basketball, and the basketball hits him dead in the back, and it's a foul.
I I don't know what now.
They were playing
Yeah,
paintball out there. He got shot blindsided.
there was a moment in the St. Joe's game where he did move into the guy's space while keeping his arms up to try
That's
to
fine.
save.
Yeah,
He did
that was a
that
foul.
was a foul.
Yes, yes. Late in
So
the game, yeah. But
two
go ahead with
very
the Richmond one.
right with the Richmond one that really set me off as well. But the there was a lost ball and then like there was a loose ball on the floor that we had, and then they blew a whistle presumably because Dambrot said he was trying to call
Oh, right, right,
timeout
right, right, right. Okay, okay. Now I remember.
and they didn't grant it to him.
Yeah,
I don't understand. And we had the jump ball.
right,
So they
right,
didn't call a jump ball. They never had possession when the inadvertent whistle happened. And we
right.
had possession prior to, if you're going to give that. There's no way that they end up with the ball, but somehow they did.
Now I totally remember what that was very confusing. Um, and the broadcast crew had no idea kind of what was going on either. But it seemed like, I mean, you could tell that Dan Brot was like, I called a timeout like a million times. And
Yeah.
then I don't know why the whistle was blown if you're not giving
A
the
timeout.
timeout call, and
Right, because
they didn't call a
there was
foul, right?
nowhere close to a foul. No, there was nobody was close to fouling anybody, and it was coming from the back guy, so he has no business calling a foul if there was one.
Yeah, that was very poor management on the ref's part. Now I totally remember that vividly. That was bizarre. That didn't help at all.
No. So that's why I say in ranking it, we lost the game, refs, and then maybe you could say that Richmond won the game. But also our last, I mean, it doesn't matter. But
Right. Yeah.
our losses to Dayton and Richmond now look like amazing losses because Dayton's blowing everybody out and we didn't get blown out.
No, we lost by like what, 8 or something, or
Yeah.
probably 11 actually.
And then Richmond, I think, is 4-1 in conference play and considered a contender for the A10 championship for the regular season now. And we should have beat them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And St. Joe's, another solid team that's been underperforming.
hmm
I'm gonna say it. We should have beat them. Like
I would say we could have beat them. I don't know about should, but I think Richmond we should have. That was mistakes on our part. We lost, like you said earlier. We lost that. I don't know if we
see,
lost St. Joe's.
this is the part I didn't want to do because I love Rozier so much, but he 100% cost us the St. Joe's game.
Yeah. Well, no.
Which
Are
is
you talking
why I
about the
say
Barre
should.
thing? Because that's Barre's fault. If you're talking about the half court violation,
Well, it was part that because
that was Barre.
it was
Because that was
Dan Brought blamed it on Barre and took him out immediately. But Rozier, if you're seeing the guy pass the ball, you also have to stop. Like there's got to be some read there.
I think part of the reason why Barre is back there is so he gets the ball. So he needs to wait for Rozier to be in the backcourt
Which
to
brings
come
up
get the ball.
whole
And that
nother
happens
issue.
all types of happens all the time though.
I understand. Whole other issue in and of itself. Why we rely on inbounding to David Dixon and Chavi Barre all the time. It doesn't
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I guess he feels safer doing it, but
Clearly.
and I think we disagree on that. I think that was Barre's fault. I think they do that enough times during the course of the game where the guard comes back to get the ball in the half court. You have to wait until he passes the half court line.
So it was that. It was a bad foul on his part right away, giving another two points, and then turning the ball over. Like losing control of the ball and into the middle of the lane. Like all 3 possessions in a row just completely turned the tide of that game.
Yeah.
So that's where I was like, I hate to do this, but man, that cost us.
Yeah, those were tough turnovers in the St. Joe's game. I guess we'll just keep going back and forth. That's kind of the between the games.
I mean, there's a lot of similarities and some differences, and
I mean, they're both one basket games, so I mean, it's airing grievances, I guess, on both losses. But I'm rereading my notes for the Richmond game, and I guess something I can air more frustrations with is kind of Mahorcic. I didn't like his play at all in the Richmond game. Looking at his box sheet, 2 of 11 from the field, no rebounds for someone who's the tallest man on the floor in 16 minutes of play. And then I wrote down, he does this a lot too. But I wrote down at the 9:41 mark in the second half, he went up for what should have been a dunk on someone. I think he got probably a nifty pass from someone, and all he had to do was finish it. But instead of going up straight, dunking it down, he contorts his body to avoid contact as if he's a guard. As if he's like Allen Iverson, or Kyrie Irving trying to do some sort of flashy finish, and it doesn't go in. You are 6'10". You are too big for you to be avoiding contact. You should be looking for contact and finishing on top of it.
100%.
Even if you do get contact and miss, you're going to the line.
That's your job, is to draw fouls.
Exactly. So and he does it. That was just one example, the timestamp I brought up, but he's been doing that a lot, and that happened a lot in that game in particular.
Yeah, and he didn't play much in the second half of the St. Joe's game, I think, because Dan Brought realized he could not be involved in that game. They were taking advantage of his defensive inefficiencies.
I think he's too much of a minus on defense, and sometimes we need a post guy, but I don't know. I don't think he's
a matchup dependent play at this point, where you need a traditional big man for him to be on the court and not be at a loss. But since we're doing the back and forth thing, you mentioned the Allen Iverson comparison. You didn't hear this. Broadcasters did give Trey Clark an Allen Iverson comp on the on the one crossover where his guy went the complete opposite direction, leaving Trey wide open for a three towards the end of the game. There was a pick to his right.
Mhm.
He chose to avoid the screen, and then the guy
Right.
still ran into the screen.
Yeah, deferred the screen. Yeah, I think I know what play that did he fin. You
Yeah,
said he passed
he
for a
made
three.
no, he had a wide open three at the top of the 3 point arc. He
Gotcha.
buried
Okay.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, that just had to be brought up. We always call out his highlights, and that was the highlight of that game.
yeah, yeah. I guess let's start talking a little bit more positively. Trey Clark was great in the St. Joe's game. Obviously, both these games we didn't have day. We should also say.
Yeah.
Um, as hard as I've been on day, like it doesn't matter. He's still a great shot creator, even for others when he's on the floor. He has a presence about him with his shooting, even the threat to shoot, even if his numbers aren't really up to par compared to last year, he's still a threat. So it's obviously a huge loss not having him. But Trey Clark stepping up in his absence and DeMichael again
Yeah.
stepping up. There was a St. Joe's guy. He was like, that DeMichael kid on that team, like he was pretty good. I was like, yeah, and he's not even really a starter, and he's a freshman.
Yeah, they announced this during the game. He's actually a walk-on. He's not a scholarship player for this year.
Holy crap! Wow, how they leave that? I guess that's good timing to bring it up now.
Yeah.
Really
So
real underdog story there. That's awesome. Well,
so
hopefully he earns a
I
scholarship.
have a feeling he's
That
got a
part that
scholarship
part's
locked
not
up.
awesome, but
Yeah, I have a feeling he's got that locked up at this point. Yeah, he's been the bright spot of the season so far in conference play. I mean, he's a local kid, so he's truly been lifting some spirits up here. He did get attacked a little bit defensively in this one, which I mean, he's going up against a guy that's a lot faster than him, and he's learning how to defend those guys.
he's
But
working hard. He's working
I
hard.
I would not. I don't think he lost his battle uh,
No,
in either game. So yeah, Jake DeMichael, huge bright spot. Hopefully he continues to do his thing because he's been a bright spot since really the Loyola game where he came on.
yeah. What I like about him a lot is and you need this as a basketball player. Some people think of it as arrogance, but you need extreme confidence to play basketball. And I like that he takes shot in the faces of defenders. I like that he drives to the lane. I like that he puts the ball on the floor and creates shots for people. For a walk on to do that and to have that type of confidence is it's really impressive. We saw with Savrasov early in the season where he was a veteran D1 basketball player and his confidence wasn't there early in the season. You see it with some other Kareem Rozier really with when it comes to shooting the ball doesn't have like the confidence that I think he should to shoot the ball more. So that's been the most impressive thing to me, other than the ball going in the hoop.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight something else. He was constantly going for the boards in this one and being under the basket defensively and offensively. So that is another nice touch where he is truly hustling his butt off in every single aspect.
You're
Uh,
right. Yeah, in the St. Joe's game, 4 of 9 from the field, 3 of 6 from three. As you mentioned, crashed the glass, 4 boards, which tied for there's actually a lot of people who got 4 boards in this game, but nonetheless, I mean, like you said, a guard crashing the glass. So
yeah, and then I mean the other bright spot in the St. Joe's game from the guard spot we already mentioned a little bit was Ronsky. Uh, Truly feel confident with him on the floor. I know he was an analytical black spot last year. And I think that's part of the reason why he didn't get as much play time this year. But I mean, he proved he deserved the minutes. And I told you this in the messages. I feel good about. I don't feel great about them, but I feel good about the guards for next year as long as nobody leaves.
in terms of Rozier and DeMichael and Horonsky is what you're talking about.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
Nekis as a potential, like if he develops, he could be in that rotation easily.
Yeah, I think Nick is I said this to you as well. I think he's tapered off a little bit from his start in the beginning of the season, just not really unless he has an open shot in the corner, like he's not really offering much else. Not rebounding that much. His rotations haven't been as clean on defense as I mentioned earlier in the season that I thought was impressive. So I think he needs a little bit more work, but I liked Horonsky's confidence in the St. Joe's game. That's by far his best game as a Duke, in my opinion.
Yeah, and those were the three guys that were going to get more run with Day out because they need help at the guard, and not one person can take all of those minutes because Day's basically on the floor the entire game.
Yeah.
Even Trey didn't play the entire game when Day was out because he needed breathers too. So that was
Yeah.
another issue with the Richmond game too, was the amount of foul trouble that we had
Yeah.
in St. Joe's, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, the guards are racking up fouls, so that's something that can be addressed. But in the big picture thing that I was talking about, where I'm focused on their development, um, I'm not as concerned with all that stuff right now. Just focusing on finding that rotation and moving forward. The Drames are part of that rotation. They consistently show that. I think Savrasov should be there too. That's the
Yeah,
big thing.
that's really like a big head scratcher. I don't get it. I really don't. Um, especially I don't know. It's kind I have no words for it. I just was like in a game, especially with games without your top goal scorer, um, not having any minutes for a guy who started most of the season and wasn't like a Barre type starter, where he was getting just 10 minutes a game. I mean, the guy was getting 25 minutes a game at least.
And was doing well with them. I
Yeah, yeah.
it's the biggest mystery right now. Um, I really don't have much else. Dixon played well. Um,
In both games, I thought.
yeah,
Didn't play as much in the St. Joe's game, but
I
I
think that was
think
I think that was foul trouble related, right? I think he had like three or
uh
four fouls.
yeah, it looks like he had 3 fouls. But I think that was mostly Dambrot was definitely doing a lot when it came to matchups for subbing in that game. Like for whenever it was offense, he was late in the game. He was on offense, he'd won Horonsky in the game for drop for Fusini, and then on defense, sub those guys out, wanted Fusini on the floor. So I think it was just really matchup related when it came to that game specifically.
All right. Um, Trying to think of anything else from the guys' side that I really wanted to talk about. We hit all the major ones. Um,
It was a fun. Oh, I have a fun tidbit from the St. Joe's game. Totally. I mean, it's game basketball related. So it was alumni day, I guess. And so they brought out like guys dating back all the way in the 50s. And then they came all the way back to current day. And DeAndre Bembry was an honored alumni at St. Joe's. I don't know if, for people who don't know, like he got drafted into the NBA and played a few years in the NBA. I remember him on the Hawks mostly.
yeah,
Um, but that was just cool. Like DeAndre Bembry is just in the house for a random A10 game.
yeah, and well, Greer's dad was also there. TV cameras caught him. He was also another NBA alum who I think he played at Temple. That's what they said. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
but just another local NBA guy there.
Unfortunately, no Jameer Nelson, which that would have been, I mean, totally sick if he was there.
Yeah,
Who's the current, I think he's the current GM now of the Delaware Bluecoats, which is the G League team for the Sixers.
I'm sure he'll find some time during the A10 tournament or something to make his way.
Yeah. But
Um,
yeah, that was cool.
yeah. Uh, from going to the women's basketball, they also lost to St. Joe's a week prior. St. Joe's women, as Zach said, are probably one of the most well-rounded teams in the A10 on the women's side of things. That showed we actually played pretty well offensively, efficiency wise. It just they were better. So a few plays here or there that they can pick up to make that game interesting moving forward if they run into each other later on. The bright spot of women's basketball was the St. Bonaventure game earlier this week, where it was kind of a first quarter and third quarter domination on the Duke's part, where they controlled the game. They were finding any shot that they wanted to. It was a good day for people to kind of relax, find their spot. Um, I don't remember Meg's final line, but she had a bunch of stats out
I
there.
can I can go through it if you want to have it up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So she played the full game,
Yeah.
40 minutes.
which was completely unnecessary in this one.
Yeah. But 6 of 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from three, 10 defensive rebounds, 13 overall, 6 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, 3 turnovers. So
All right,
for
so
17 points overall, which was the highest in
below
the game.
average Meg McConnell game. Okay.
Yeah. 13 boards is just so insane. It's so insane.
Yanni and Maya Hamilton both used their height advantage in this one to get basically any look they wanted to when they were on the floor. Seemed like Coach Burt wanted the guards to get some run and kind of not take full advantage of that. Tess shot okay. She's still getting back into it after her injury. Nay Bernard was okay. Wasselson had some good looks. I was surprised the bench didn't get more run in this one, but I mean the score wasn't as bad as it should have been. The Duke should have won this by a lot more than just 9 points. So when
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
The score doesn't really tell the story of how dominant the Lady Dukes were, but 4 out of the 5 starters in double digits, that's good. So, but yeah, I kind of agree. Like the surprise that the subs didn't get more run in this game, but yeah, and McConnell playing 40 minutes is cool, but like you said, definitely unnecessary given she's leading the whole country in minutes, probably,
it has to
if
be.
not in the top 10. So,
Uh, yeah, and then
but 4-2 conference record.
yeah, they're still their games actually matter. Their results matter. And the women's basketball game is going on right now against Davidson, so you won't hear any analysis on that right now. But I'm expecting another win, so we'll we'll just talk about that as if they're going to win this one.
Sure, yeah.
Definitely won't have any side effects. Um, I don't know. Is there any other big things that you want to talk about? I feel like this loss kind of really hurt a lot of the Duquesne fans out there. There's a lot of negativity on the chat forums and Twitter and all those spaces. The Duquesne Facebook page has a lot of people saying, of course, they lost another one. Same old Dukes every year, same old Dukes. And I don't think that's been true. I think last year was different than the usual same old Dukes. I think most of Dan Broad's tenure has been different. And this year, I still think this is the most talented team he's gotten. Uh,
I
and
think this team has more talent than last year too, weirdly.
I I think they have a much better chance of doing something in the tournament, like the A10 tournament. But we'll see.
I can go through a little bit, like I'm looking at Ken Palm's updated stats for Duquesne overall, and they rank 118th in offensive efficiency in the country, which is pretty good. That's like top third. 110 defensively in defensive efficiency. That's pretty good. Um,
So what you're telling me is we should at least be around a top 100 team.
yeah. It's weird. And kind of what I'm seeing right now, and it kind of is true in the games. It's just kind of hard to score the bucket, I think, sometimes when it comes to the men. Their offense just hasn't been the threes aren't going in. Like we're shooting. We've talked about this quite a few
Yeah.
times this season, but the percentage of threes that we're making doesn't add up to the amount of 3-point attempts that we're having. We're not that good at 3-pointers to shoot as many as we do. But defensively, I mean, we're ranked 80th in the country in steal percentage, 71 in block percentage, 109th in 2-point field goal percentage. That's all top third, over top third in the country with those numbers. But offensively, 215th in 2-point percentage, 185th in 3-point percentage, but 60th in 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
That kind of tells the story right there. Like it shows that 185th, that's basically average. But we're taking above average three-point attempts.
But we're also not making 2-pointers, is what you're saying.
Yeah, 215th in 2-point percentage, and we rank 388th in 2 points attempted, like as a shot distribution between
Yeah.
3-pointers, 2-pointers, and free throws.
And from my eyes, I think I've seen that we aren't taking any mid-range shots. So we are we are hitting the point of being like what modern day basketball.
This is Daryl Morey basketball in the Houston Rocket era.
But we actually have the players who can make the mid-range shots, which is even more frustrating.
Day-Day's is a very good mid-range shooter. I think Rozier is a good mid-range shooter, except he takes one a game, which is so annoying. That's where I think he should operate kind of that middle of the floor where he can kind of stop on the pick and roll, and that's an opening right there. Stop in the mid-ranger and take that shot because if he gets close to the basket, he's just going to get blocked and he doesn't have an opportunity for the shot. It's that mid-ranger that I think Rozier specifically should take advantage of more.
Agree with that. Ronsky has shown that he can make a good mid-range. DeMichael, I think, probably has that in his bag. I mean, that seems like the basic shot that everybody learns.
Yeah, I mean,
DeMichael,
I'm good with the shots that he's taking. I think Trey should take less threes. I think maybe he should.
Well, he should just keep driving to the basket. I know that's causing
Yeah, no,
turnovers, but
yeah,
we need that.
and he's a great pick and roll operator. He's good at getting the big man the ball, sneaking it to him on the pick and roll, or dishing it out for an open three and seeing like the corners being open. But I think Horonsky, this was a great game from St. Joe's for Horonsky. I think it's going to earn him more minutes and maybe get him a little bit more involved in the offense. And if he has a size mismatch like he did against the St. Joe's, and we trust him with his shot, that should be good offense for us.
Agreed. And I did remember one thing that I wanted to talk about. You said that made a point that there was a lineup in particular that really perked your interest during that St. Joe's game. Was it point Trey Clark with DeMichael and I think
let me pull it up right now, but I think Horonsky was in that lineup.
My guessing of the bigs is probably Dixon and Trey.
Oh, you know what? I said the lineup right now, but I don't know who was in there.
Yeah, that's where I lost it too. But
damn it,
I was hoping you knew.
I would say it was Dixon. It was Dixon, Clark, DeMichael, and maybe Fusini or Horonsky.
Fusini and
Dixon,
Horonsky and Trey,
or maybe
Williams.
both of them. Was it Trey? Damn it! That's what stinks. I didn't take any notes.
6 players, definitely. I think.
Yeah. But either way, I know for a fact Rozier was not on the floor for that. For when I said that, which is what I think makes it interesting with, like you said, point Trey Clark out there. I just like the size, and I think Trey is a good enough passer to get those guys involved. And I think it's a balanced team both offensively and defensively. I think Rozier, I love his tenacity on the defensive end. It just comes down to size. Like we're talking about basketball here. You need size. He's just always going to be a minus on defense. Doesn't matter how hard he works. Even though in the St. Joe's game, I saw this from Dambrot. He had a crucial steal off. I think it was.
Yeah, it was the big guy.
Yeah. Like he was about to do a handoff at the top of the key. The St. Joe's guy who had a great game. I forget his name.
Alessandro or something.
He had a unique last name. It was. Let's pull it up. I have it up. Oh, Asandako or something.
Or something like that. Yeah.
But anyway, Rozier had a crucial steal in that moment. So like he definitely worked. He had, and then Dambrot was like so proud of him after that. Really like gave him a huge hug after that moment. But either way, I just like the size and kind of the balance when Rozier's off the floor.
Yeah, I think
when it comes down to it.
I think the highest upside lineup is probably without him in the lineup.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but he's kind of gun shy when it comes to shooting as well on offense. I mean, if he's wide open for a three, he's a 45% 3-point shooter. That's amazing. But actually, let me pull it up. I might have his attempts on hand. He's taking. Oh, that's actually higher than I thought. He's taking close to 4 3-pointers a game.
He's making,
but only 2.5 2-point attempts a game. So he's shooting basically 6 shots a game as a starting point guard.
Playing over 30 minutes a game.
Yes, playing 30.3 minutes a game.
Uh,
This doesn't have St. Joe's stats updated in there, but
yeah.
it's pretty much the same.
Trey Williams, I just want to point this out. He's making the shots he's taken the past few games. He hasn't taken many, which seems to be his MO, where he's trying to make his contributions felt however he can. But I do like him on the line, on the floor, and
I think
I
yeah.
rewatched that Dayton game where I didn't think he'd be a good matchup, and he played really well in that game. I don't know
Yeah,
why I was so concerned about the size matchup in that.
yeah, I didn't push you too hard because that was your opinion for that game, but I thought he would he played well in that game, but I kind of agree with you. I think with him he has a really good feel for the game. It's hard to explain, but I think he knows when they kind of need a shot in the post and they're getting too trigger happy from outside, and he kind of puts the ball on the deck and tries to create something out of the post. And he makes some of those shots, he does have some post moves. Um, but he's a great, defensive person to have on the floor. I think he's one of the better rebounders on this team. Other than Fusini by the numbers is the best rebounder and by the eye test. But I think Dixon, that's another thing I actually just thought about, kind of going off from what I was talking about with Trey Williams. But Dixon at the end of the St. Joe's game, they won on an offensive rebound. And he went for a block where he was 5 feet from the guy shooting it. And he went for a block that he had no chance of getting.
Yeah,
And he basically, that was his rebound when he block chases like that. He's getting kind of, when with Trey Clark with steals, he kind of goes for the steals, you know what I mean? And fouls a person. We're getting the same thing from Dixon when it comes to blocks. He's just going for everything when he has. I mean, he thought he was Wembenyama in that moment, like 7-4, and he could just catch that shot out of the air. He had no shot at blocking it.
yeah, and that does bring up the point I forgot to bring up, where the moment where he got the ball stolen, which I don't know why the offense was running through David Dixon driving from uh the elbow of the
Yeah.
three, but he got it stolen. And he came back, made the nice block. It's like, yeah, that's great, and
Well, you
that's
kind
great.
of started that whole thing.
Well, there's that, but then it's also in clutch time in particular. Yeah, there's no need to be block chasing at all. Like
No.
that needs to be ingrained into his head. And I think that's part of the reason, maybe part of the frustrations with him that we haven't really noticed as to why Dan Brott hasn't been so frustrated with him over these years.
Yeah, and he's a good blocker. Like he's still good at defense, but he needs to pick his spots a little bit more. That's what it comes down to, because Rozier, and that I think it was Rozier who was guarding the ball handler who took that shot that missed. He was right on him. I mean, he's gonna shoot a little bit above Rozier because of the size, but I mean, he made it tough for him. And like I said, Dixon was not in position to block that shot, even though, and he still goes for it. Um, it's those like small things, like you need to, in that moment, you need to make the decision like, okay, there's still enough time maybe for to get the rebound. Like it's situational basketball, and they're just kids, so these are tough situations to be prepared for. But yeah, in the moment, it was frustrating to watch.
I was looking through the stat line finally, and it's really funny that we were talking about Rozier needing to take more shots. He shot 11, which was second on the team in shot attempts against St. Joe's. He only made two of them. Neither were three pointers. Um, so I don't know. You gotta make them too.
Yeah. um if it didn't feel that way, did it? Like, I'm kind of
No,
shocked by that. I had it up
I
too,
am
and I
too.
and I kind of, I guess I obviously glossed over it. um Maybe because I saw the two in front and I ignored it.
Yeah, but Clark taking 19, I mean, normal game with Day Day, he's not going to take 19 shots, but he's also a guy that can take 19 shots because he'll make like half of them or
Yeah, I
shoot.
mean, 8 of 19, 5 of 10 from three, 21 points overall. Um, that passes my threshold where he had more points than field goal attempts, so
Yep.
that's always a good sign.
The Kobe Bean Bryant threshold of whether it's a good game or not.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's kind of, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I mean, I think the Savrasov thing is a big mystery that I would be interested if any of the I don't watch any of the post game pressers or anything like that, but if that gets mentioned, I would love to be notified about it immediately.
Yeah, there's no post game press conferences at away games.
Zach, if you're listening, that's
Frustratingly.
a question you need to ask. What happened to Savrasov?
Yeah, if you could specific like he kind of danced around it, or he alluded to it. He was not kind in his questions at his last press conference he attended, which I told him were great questions that he asked.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you could just be blunt and say, Savrasov, what happened? He'll say, I can tell you what Stan Brown's going to say. Oh, there's so many guys. We got to find the minutes. It's tough to do. I mean, I know he's not happy with the lack of minutes the past few games, but I mean, there's so many talented guys. We have Dixon, and he's going to do it that way. He's going to focus on all the guys that do get minutes. And it's just like, yeah, but Savrasov was playing better than all of them statistically. So what happened?
Yeah. Started for most of the season and all of a sudden isn't playing with day out. Like that's what really blows my mind is like when you need your guys to step up that are starters and off the bench and Savrasov doesn't even crack that rotation. Like that's really shocking to me.
And coach, I don't know if you've noticed, he hasn't played much in the 5 losses that you've just suffered here. And before those 5 losses, your team looked pretty good in the win column. Just putting some simple math together here for you. You think that should change?
Potential correlation? We'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the expectations of the season are gone, so it's not like these losses, like we're not freaking out as much anymore on these losses. I mean, they're 0-5 in the conference. It's kind of we're a walking dead man at this point when it comes to A10.
The analysis is focused on. Hi, Maya.
Can I say something?
Sure. You gonna say go Duquesne? Okay. Yeah, the focus is now on the team getting better and better, going to the tournament play and trying to steal a bid that we have no business stealing. That's really all we have left for this year.
Yeah. Hopefully we just play better basketball. I think that's like at least they're good games that we're watching, but yeah, it's kind of depressing at this point in the season. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
All right. And with that high note, go Dukes.
Go Dukes.
The Dukes are back and now it's time to rise up.